Hello, today I'm going to be talking about Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. This came out in 2002 and this copy was translated into English by Philip Gabriel. Set in Murakami's native Japan, it follows two alternating storylines. They alternate by chapter. The first is by Kafka Tamura, who is a 15-year-old boy who's run away from home to avoid a prophecy, and the other is an old man called Nakata who kind of had this weird accident when he was a child in the war, which basically made him dumb. In his own words, Nakata isn't very bright. Nakata can also communicate with cats, so that's cool. And it kind of, like, there's not really any point in me telling you the plot. It just they kind of converge and diverge and stuff happens. It's very Murakami in that it's quite like magical realism and metaphysical and alternate realities and stuff like that. It's a very strange one. And I was absolutely loving it until about halfway through. I think it's the fourth Murakami book I've read, so I was kind of in the right mindset for, I knew how to like approach the magical realism of it and just kind of like take it in and accept it and not think too much about it. But while reading it, I was comparing it to Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World, which is another Murakami book that has kind of two alternating storylines that do very much converge in the end. And I was just very unsatisfied by the way this did. I think a lot of Murakami books are about getting you into this weird kind of ethereal state of mind when you're so absorbed in it and just like go along with everything it says. And I was totally in that mindset until some things in the plot kind of pushed me out of it, and then it just kind of felt really pointless. Like nothing felt concluded and all of it just felt quite esoteric and pointless, and like it was self-aggrandizing and making kind of like comments on death and regeneration and stuff that weren't landing for me. I do feel like I could read it again and really love it, or I could read it again and really hate it. I'm not sure which. I probably just won't. I am definitely going to read more Murakami though. This one just didn't really capture me. If you've read it and really love it, please tell me what it captured in you in the comments. I'd be really interested to hear. Anyway, there are a few things I'd like to talk about. The first is perspective. When I first started reading it, I was like, really want to talk about this, and then it kind of like faded away towards the end, but I'm still gonna mention it. What was really obvious for me from the start was that the chapters that were from Kafka Tamura's point of view were in the first person, and the ones from Tanaka are in the third person. And it really bothered me because I think it's this intellectualism thing that I definitely kind of put Murakami in the category of authors just wanting to sound really clever, so they give their first person voices to the intelligent characters. Kind of fair enough, it's easier to communicate the whole kind of environment if you're in this godlike third person perspective when your main character is too dumb to really communicate the context. But it was such a striking difference that it was really noticeable for me. And it got me on the lookout for all of these like esoteric intellectualisms that Murakami slips in. He really likes to talk in depth about classical music and couldn't really do that through the kind of like coming of age character or like the man that can't read. So he slips in this super intelligent library clerk that knows fucking everything, and then also this other man that follows Nakata around and suddenly gets real taste for classical music. I feel like unless you're really versed in classical music and can understand the nuance of what he's describing with it, they're just so irrelevant. And now I'm going to talk about the thing that really bothered me, that threw me away from being so into it. And I would count this as a spoiler. If someone said this to me before I started reading the book, I would be like, fuck, you just, because it's not revealed until I guess halfway through or something. So if you want to not listen to me talk about this, this is the timestamp you need to jump to. Also, I'm gonna talk about sex and rape and porn. So jump to this if you don't want to hear any of that. Right, so the prophecy that Kafka is running away from mirrors that of Oedipus. So in Greek mythology, there was a prophecy that Oedipus would kill his father and marry his mother, and then by that ruin like the whole city, blah blah blah. And of course he accidentally does. Kafka's dad puts this prophecy on him when he's young, which is that he will kill his father and then sleep with his sister and his mother. So he runs away in order to not do this, obviously, but by super mystical circumstances he does kind of end up killing his dad. And then like one of the first girls he meets when he runs away turns out to be a sister who she gave him a cheeky hand job or something like that, and then later on he has like a dream about raping her, which is like, was it a dream? And then he starts kind of working for the woman who is his mum, whose childhood sweetheart died when she was 20, so she's just been kind of like floating through life since then, and she also kind of appears to Kafka sometimes as this 15-year-old girl, like exactly who she was when she was 15, and Kafka just like falls in love with this apparition and then just like has sex with his mum a lot. No idea why his mum is going for this, because he's like a 15-year-old boy and this woman is in her 50s, 40s. Ugh. So the reason this may be uncomfortable, obviously, is the whole having sex with your parents thing, but I wanted to dissect if I should feel uncomfortable about that. This is gonna get weird. So, shocker to nobody, I hope, I look at porn sometimes, and I feel like I always come across this kind of genre of porn which is like BDSM daddy porn, which is like girls treating their dom as their dad, and that makes me feel super weird, and it only makes me feel weird because I think I should feel weird about it, and also because I don't want to think of my dad like that, which is clearly a social construct. I don't want to think of my dad like that, but mostly it's like I don't think that if I spoke to other people about having fantasies where I'm treated like the child of the person that I'm having sex with, I feel like everyone would be like, that's kind of weird and gross. So it's way more the stigma of the thing than the actual thing. The only reason incest is bad is like the medical sense that if you reproduce with somebody you are related to, then there might be complications just because of like the DNA mixing. But it's way more a like societal pressure thing where if I wanted to hook up with my first cousin, everyone would be like, no, that's gross, and I would be like, but medically we're fine. I don't want to do that. I know one of my cousins watches these videos. This is weird now. I think what I'm trying to say, besides the age power dynamic thing, there's nothing wrong with Kafka sleeping with his mum, and I shouldn't feel weird about it, but I do. And that revulsion spoilt the book for me quite a bit. To those that enjoyed this book, how did you overcome that? Was it never an issue for you? Did you not even think about it and have the little internal crisis I seem to be having? Anyway, moving on to brighter topics, I do this thing occasionally where I dog-ear the pages that mention the title of the book if I think that's going to be interesting. And it was in this sense. This is the start of the book and this is the end of the book, and it's mentioned about a third of the way through, and then it's mentioned quite a lot, and then towards the end it's not mentioned. The title Kafka on the Shore is a prophetic song that Kafka's mum wrote about him, kind of, in the past. Not relevant, nothing that I really want to say about that, I just thought it's interesting. So, couple final notes. There was a trans person in this book, which I thought was really great representation in 2005 and portrayed very kind of like casually but realistically, which I thought was really cool. And he also introduced me to the word phallocentric that I'm definitely going to be using instead of patriarchal like all of the time now. And I hope you've enjoyed this video on Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. If you'd read loads of Murakami, tell me where this ranks for you, because that is something I want to know. I really need to read the Wind Up Bird Chronicle because I feel like that and this one are a similar size and like a similar lore around them. And also let me know if I've convinced you to read this book or convince you to not read it, which I don't know what I was going for really. I will see you in another video soon. Bye.